Hola mi gente, MsMalcolmHughes here, back with a book review. And today we are going to be talking about none other than Life After Death by Sister Souljah. Y'all, I have so many thoughts about this book, like all of y'all, I'm sure, but let's just get into it. So Life After Death picks us up with the protagonist Winter Santiago, we all know and have strong feelings about, from The Coldest Winter Ever. It has been 15 years since she was locked up at the end of The Coldest Winter Ever, where the story occurs, and she's getting out. She's finally getting out of jail. We're going to get an update on what's been going on with Winter in her life. So this story takes us on the journey of Winter from right before her release. We learn that she is planning to do a reality TV show with her brother-in-law Elisha. Elisha is from A Deeper Love Inside, the Portia Santiago story. It's Portia's husband. If you haven't read that book, or if you have and you didn't see my review, it's up. I will link it here. But that's Elijah. As you know from the A Deeper Love Inside, he's a huge movie director, and he's gonna get Winter her own TV show because everyone wants to know about her. She's stunning. She spent this time in jail. She has a father, Ricky Santiago, who was just infamous in New York, especially in the streets of Brooklyn. So immediately upon her release from prison, Winter is shot and killed. Immediately upon her release, Winter is shot and killed. Ruins everything, right? All the plans. And then that's really where the story picks up. We get to go with Winter on this journey for life after death. And that's predominantly what this book is about. Winter's experience since being murdered and everything she has to endure in the afterlife. And then it ends in a different place. Now, with that being said, with me saying this book ends in a different place, I have to say that I was frustrated 90 to 95% of the time reading this book. Because while Winter is in the afterlife, she endures many struggles, situations, just interesting moments. And then we get the finale where we get the resolution to all of this, right? Was this real? Was this not real? In the current situation with Winter and her family. Cool. That's the synopsis of the book. Winter getting killed, she has to deal with the afterlife, and then we get the happy ending that everyone wanted for the Santiagos. Once Winter is shot, she gets to go on a journey. We end up finding out eventually that she gets to say goodbye to 3 people is essentially what's happening for her soul. First, she goes to visit Ricky Santiago in jail, her father. So we get a very short update on him. He's still very stoic, right? He's in prison, but right before she's about to right before he's about to be told that his first child has been killed, Winter snaps out because she gets upset, she gets angry, and then she dissolves. Now I think that was a message that Sister Souljah was trying to send everyone about anger and how it's destructive, and you can't control it, so you aren't your real self and you dissolve into someone else, or you dissolve to a place where you no longer have complete control over your capacity. And I think that message came through clear. Next, we get to see Winter go visit her friends, who it turns out Simone killed her because Simone still had animosity from The Coldest Winter Ever. When she was chasing Winter, she fell and she miscarried with her child. Listen, it's a lot, right? I'm not saying that I wouldn't still have that animosity. It's not really Winter's fault, but I see how you could inadvertently place that fault on Winter. So I get that. Cool. So Simone killed her. And then we get a snapshot into all the friends who were real shady boots, talking about how, you know, they felt strong feelings about Winter and not the best ones. Especially Simone. Some other folks trying to defend her, but you know, Simone's like, Winter is selfish and she was going to make more money than all of us off of the show and all of these things. She has no remorse about killing her. Bam. We get to see that fight. Then we fast forward and Winter is actually taken to the United Arab Emirates, the UAE, where Midnight and his family live. And he lives in this super plush compound that he's designed for him and his now 4 wives and their family and their kids. It's stunning. We get to see the life that he's lived. We get to see the him and Chia a little bit. It's really beautiful and it's really cute. And if she wants to write a part 4 of Midnight based on that storyline, I'm here for it. I'm not gonna lie, I will read it. So we get to see Winter being upset about that. And then finally, after those are her 3 goodbyes, Winter is buried. She experiences that, right? And then she goes to what is not hell, but it's purgatory. She's in purgatory, and we get to see the struggle she faces there. Now, this entire section of the book was extremely frustrating. One, because you just started off your book killing the protagonist, the main character who we all came to see. So yes, that was just upsetting and off-putting. I get why everyone was like, I don't like this book. Everyone is frustrated. A lot of people have said that this book is all over the place. Now, one thing I will say is I actually don't think the book is all over the place. I think the book is structured, and I think that Sister Souljah had intended messages that she wanted to get out. And I think that that is something that is clear here. So I actually don't think it's all over the place. I think it's quite organized. But let's talk about why I understand how certain people are upset. A big frustration for me with this book is that it's obvious that Sister Souljah wanted to spread a message. And my frustration was, if you wanted to write Dante's Inferno, if you wanted to do a remake of Dante's Inferno, you should have just said that. That should have been a different it arguably should have been a different book. We see Winter in purgatory. She's stuck, she can't move her body, she's suffering, and then she gets rescued by a demon who she doesn't initially realize is a demon, right? And she goes and they have sex, and then he has sex with her, he has anal sex with her, and she turns into an animal. So that's the big sin here, y'all. Every time someone has anal sex, they turn into an animal. That's an obvious message that Sister Souljah wanted to send. That's the thing with this book. There are obvious messages, and I'm not mad at her. I just don't think it's what people were expecting. That happens to Winter twice. First, she takes her human form again. She ends up back at this spot where she can't move her body. She has no control over her sensory motor skills, of her senses, or nothing. But she's it's horrible smells, there's pain, she's being attacked by things. That is the aspect of Dante's Inferno, where you talk about purgatory and what happens there and what people are suffering from. It's different, but it's definitely symbolic of Dante's Inferno. Neither here nor there, we digress. So at the same time, right, they're the unborn children who are trying to save their parents' souls. And Winter, if you remember, she got an abortion in the coldest winter ever. Turns out that she was gonna have twins. So the daughter is trying to save her soul. It ends up being a big war. And Winter's demon boo, one of Satan's son, that nigga 66, that's his name. That nigga 66, okay? I didn't make it up. That's what she called him. I thought some of the names are just too obvious, too spot on. Like, could have been a little bit more creative, but neither here nor there, okay? The thing I found interesting about this is because this is very religious. So you have to go religious with it. As above, so below. Hell was just earth. It was just earth, but the free form of a chaotic earth. You can do whatever. It's demonic, it's evil, it's dark. There's no real rules, right? So the same type of men, the demons that Winter fell for in purgatory, were the same type of men that she would have dated in real life. So I found that very interesting, and I thought that was a message in there. A lot of messages here, and I can't even say hidden messages, because they're just really obvious. And I can't even say she threw a rock and hit her hand. I think she just laid it out bare. So that nigga 66 father is Shaitan, or Satan. So here's the thing y'all don't know about me. I actually have a lot of background in history and family members, and just my own practices with Islam. And I also still to this day have a very deep reverence for Islam. So part of my family is Baptist Christian, the part Muslim. I have a deep knowledge of both. So I got everything she was trying to do here. Winter ends up falling for Shaitan, Satan, because That nigga 6'6" father is Satan. And once he's dead, Winter ends up in a convent. This was another aspect that was really heavily religious and interesting. She gets rescued by some nuns who take her to a convent, and the nuns there are trying to save her soul, but none of them can escape purgatory, right? They're all still in purgatory. So I found that really interesting because that gets into Christianity. This whole book, let me just say this entire book is really for Islam. It's really heavily pushing Islam. And I don't think it's about, again, deep reverence for Islam, but that was the message that she was trying to send here. That Islam is the right path. And I think that's what she was trying to send. So again, like, that's why I said Dante's Inferno. It's a cautionary tale, right? It's a warning. And that's what this is. It's a warning. It's telling you the life of Winter. I think she was also trying to clean up maybe some of the messages that were sent with the coldest winter ever. But that's not the way. That's not the truth. That's not the light. That's not the right path, right? So she heavily pushes Islam here. That's clear. She heavily advocates for Islam, and that's here. It's not arguable. So Shaitan ends up being just this super cold dude. He runs everything in purgatory, and he and Winter end up dating, and he loves Winter, and Winter has gotten the lesson that she shouldn't have anal sex. So she doesn't let that happen for a really long time, or a really long time in purgatory days. Who knows how long that is. So it doesn't happen for a while, and then eventually, because she is, so along this path she meets other women, 2 women in particular, and they become like friends. There's Pretty and there's Bridget. These women, they end up always being back together at some point. So they're in the convent together, and eventually Pretty's like, let's go to the club. And that's how Winter meets Shaitan, or Satan. And they all end up going back to his place. Over time, Bridget's dating his assistant. Pretty's just around. Shaitan, one of Shaitan's sons, likes her, but she's not on that type of time. She's not with that. On Earth, she was a preacher's daughter, so she is very cognizant of everything that's happening here. And eventually, right, Shaitan is gonna give Winter her own clothing line, and she's gonna be a designer there, which is what she wanted to do on Earth. So Pretty becomes her secretary, and they 3 have a pact of privacy. So eventually Shaitan is basically enticing them into a threesome, is what's happening here. And Winter is straight, but she's kind of, you know, going along with it. And Winter and Shaitan had a pact that she would never deny him, and anything that she would deny him, he could get from someone else. So she has been denying him anal sex because she realizes that it's gonna turn her into an animal, and she don't want to be an animal. Okay, so after she's done making out with Pretty, Shaitan proceeds to have sex with Pretty, and he does anal sex with her, or he has anal sex with her. And Winter, being Winter and competitive, she doesn't want anyone giving her man what she can't give him. So she then lets him have anal sex with her, and then they both turn into animals. And even worse than before, Pretty turns into a snake, which she thinks is the worst thing because of the story of Adam and Eve and the serpent. So that's like her worst fear, and then she turns into a snake, and Winter turns into a rat, and Pretty eats Winter. It's a lot. Okay, so finally Bridget comes to like rescue them and liberate them, and eventually Winter ends up back in the dark place again. We don't really know what form she is. She can't feel herself. She's not certain, right? So she's crying out because her daughter had told her, you just have to say la ilaha illallah, and that's a way, like the only way to get out of purgatory. You either gonna go up or down, okay? You're either gonna go down to the fire, right? Because Allah has granted them 3 graces, right? Has granted the unborn children 3 graces to try to save their parents. And Winter only has 1 more chance. So she's down there, she's crying, screaming, like she's just in a deep depression. She's been there, she doesn't know how long. Eventually she just keeps screaming, la ilaha illallah, la ilaha illallah. And that eventually her son comes down and talks to her like, you gotta stop pretending that you don't know the truth now that you know the truth. It's a huge thing from Islam. Now that you know, right? You can never pretend that you don't know. If Allah has granted you here, if Allah has led you here, right? Allah chooses whom Allah will, right? And since you now know the truth, you can't pretend that you don't know, right? You can choose not to act upon it, right? Which puts you in defiance, but you can't pretend that you don't know. So the son is essentially like, you have to stop pretending that you don't know the truth because you know the truth. So eventually they go up to where not as Jannah, not as heaven, but is the place before heaven, where your soul can learn the truth of Allah in the right path. And if you can make a sincere prayer and acknowledge that Allah is one, right? No competitors, right? Allah is one. And you can have reverence for Allah. You can be fearful of Allah. You can only bow to Allah. If you can make that sincere prayer, then you can go on to Jannah. So while Winter is there, Pretty and Bridget end up there as well. I don't know why these three are always all together. Pretty kind of has a purpose to the story. Bridget was just like a comical relief. I don't really know why that character is there. She's more frustrating than she is helpful to the storyline. But she's always there. She's there. They're there to send messages. They're all there to send messages. I know why they're there. They just weren't great additions. Eventually, Winter sees that nigga 6'6" there as well. So the question of like, can evil souls become pure and repent and all of these things? So it's neither here nor there. The purpose of Winter being here is because she has to face herself, right? And learn about Allah. And so eventually Winter progresses through. She advances quicker than she should have, because she ain't have time for all that, okay? She didn't want to, she understood the basics, okay? As she kept saying throughout the story, she's not a stupid bitch, okay? She kept saying that about herself. She's not a stupid bitch. She understands the basics, okay? She should only be kneeling for Allah. She should only have fear of Allah. She should only respect Allah. Allah is one. There is no other competitor. You should be worshiping no one else, right? So everything you was worshiping before, you literally even had sex with the devil himself. How that is wrong. So she understands all this. So then she has to go face herself. And that's very hard, but she has to face all the things she's done wrong and acknowledge all of her sins. And that's super challenging for Winter, but she does it. Because at first, you know, Winter is bad. And Winter knows Winter is bad. And she was really like idolizing herself and in the mirror seeing herself. Because the whole time she was like a spirit. Purgatory, she couldn't see herself. And then she could finally see herself in the mirror. So she was being like quite vain, right? And all of her hair started falling out. And her body, she turned into a beast. So that she can understand that that's superficial. It's who you are on the inside, and Allah has provided you this, and what Allah give us, Allah can take it away. So gratitude. This talk continues for a very long time, y'all. But eventually, Winter, we snap to the present. Winter is not actually dead. She was in a coma, which gets tricky because at one point in time she definitely had her being buried, but she was in a coma. So I'll let Sister Souljah get away with that, right? So she's back, she's out of her coma, flawless, right? The show had continued without her. They showed her getting shot in the hospital, the whole thing. It continued on with her friends. The star of the show ended up becoming Porsche, the backup Porsche, because Porsche was just really there. You know, Porsche loves a lot. I love that about her. She reminds me of me in that sense. But she loves a lot, especially those she cares deeply about. So she was there with Winter the entire time, singing to her, taking care of her, bathing her, making sure she stayed beautiful. And then eventually she woke up. And Porsche was the one face she saw when she woke up, because Porsche was like just leaning over like so, right? Just in her face. So eventually she woke up. And everything that you would expect comes true. She has her show, right? She's there for the reunion episode. And the biggest surprise ever, when she gets there, Ricky Santiago is there, her father is there, and he embraces her. And it's all love. It's beautiful. The dad is out of jail before he was supposed to be out of jail, right? Elisha definitely made that happen, working with the governor. We don't know if money got exchanged. We can conclude that it did. And that's one part of the happy storyline, right? We also get Winter doing an interview in New York. It's a big deal. Bullet call. This is the conclusion we get from that. Bullet calls the studio like, will you marry me, da-da-da. Winter's like, she's trying to catch his voice. At first, Angie Martinez, who that's what she's interviewing with, it's like, that's not how you approach her. And he's like, no, I'm here. I got the ring now. I'm in the lobby. And they're like, that's weird. But Winter recognizes the voice. And I love this line, actually, because it's just that. So it's like Winter's like, I know who you are, nigga, fall back. And that's the conclusion there, right? He comes back, he wants to be with her. No, I just did 15 for you. You ain't put no money on my books, you ain't come see me, you ain't defend me, you didn't get me an attorney, none of that. That's dead, right? Because she ended up on top the way it should have been. So the family is good, right? Ricky Santiago is back on top. Everyone's obsessed with them. They done broke all type of records and numbers, right? But the most beautiful thing is that Winter now has an understanding of herself, right? A different understanding of herself, because everyone thinks she's in a coma. She was in a coma, but she knows that she died. She was like, I died, right? And she now has that understanding. So she has that caution, right, of like, no, I don't worship myself. I love my father. I adore my father, but I can't idolize him, right? Only Allah, only the one. And so she has that balance, right? And at the end, she is privately Muslim, right? No one really knows that she prays alone, but when she does see her father, she does say on national TV, Alhamdulillah, right? So that's something that's with her now. She has that understanding now. She won't pretend to know now that she knows. So now she's saving herself and she's praying to Allah, and she has that understanding, and she's waiting until she finds someone, right? She's waiting to find the man who's for her and who can lead and guide. And it was a beautiful ending. The last chapter I really, really enjoyed. I think that's what people wanted more of the entire time. So I've just seen that storyline. Now, with all of that being said, with me saying I understand this book and I get it, I get what Sister Souljah was trying to do, I understand the messages that she was attempting to send, I get all of it. And we do see Winter grow and change. Now, with that being said, this book is really bad. Like with all, I wanted y'all to understand that I understand what she was trying to do. The entire time I was reading this book, I was like, this is somewhere between a C and an F. A C and an F. And that really made me sad to have to do that for Sister Souljah. We love her. I was like, this is somewhere between a C and an F. And if the ending wouldn't have been the ending that it is, because a lot of the times during reading this book, especially when Winter was in Purgatory, I heard too much of Sister Souljah. Like, I didn't really always feel like I was hearing Winter's voice. It felt like almost a caricature of Winter, an oversimplification, right? Too dense. I was like, I know she was simple, but she wasn't this dense. She also had some confidence sometimes. I was like, girl, if you were the strategist you think you are, you wouldn't be in this situation. But even with that, I just heard a lot of Sister Souljah and not always Winter. So initially I had to battle with that, but eventually I do feel as if Winter came through, especially in the end. But overall, this was a tough read, and you're just like, what? The story just kept getting crazier and crazier and crazier, and then the end, it all comes together. But there's a lot of questions not answered. I want to know more about Ricky Santiago. I hope she's writing his book. I also really wanted Winter and Midnight to have a conversation. Granted, it's not necessary. We see Midnight with his family and his wife, and he ain't thinking about Winter, right? That's clear. But now that Winter has this knowledge and she has this knowing, I wanted them to converse. I wanted to see that for them. Because they have this, well, Winter has these long-standing feelings for Midnight. Winter is a non-factor in Midnight's world. But I wanted them to have that conversation and that growth, and I wanted to see what that would have been like, and if she would have understood him better, and maybe he could have been, I don't know, proud of her or something. She didn't do it for him, none of that mattered, but I wanted to see his response to her now. I wanted to see what that would have been. But overall, this book was doing a lot, not in the ways that we desired, and I didn't enjoy it. I didn't love it. It was a lot going on. I didn't hate it. It didn't follow the storyline. It didn't really seem realistic. It seemed more like a book where she was trying to send a message, even more prevalent than before. And I kind of wish she would have just said that instead of it being wrapped in the guise of the life of Winter Santiago. I think that's a frustration that most people have. And with that being said, it was just too fantastical and kept beating you over the head with a message. And I think that if I wasn't someone who had such a deep reverence for Islam, I would have been extremely pissed off. So I completely understand why people are mad. I didn't like it. I didn't love it. The writing itself is not great. It's actually really simplistic and a bit disappointing, because Sister Souljah is better than that. Overall, if I had to rate this grade, I would give it a D. If I give this a grade, it would be a D. I just can't. I can't. There's not enough here for me to justify giving it anything higher than that. Not the worst story I've ever read, so I'm not gonna give it an F. But definitely expected more from Sister Souljah. Expected a different storyline, and I was okay to go wherever she was trying to go. But this, I felt like, wasn't really Winter's story. I feel like she was trying to send a message and used Winter to do it because she knew that so many people would be tuned in and know what happens with Winter, and I didn't really appreciate that. So I don't think the folks need to rush out and read it. You love the coldest winter ever, continue loving the coldest winter ever, and let that be that. But that's my review, y'all, of this book. This book we waited 20 years for. This is what we got. You can definitely read it to judge for yourself, but other than the last chapter, there wasn't really much that I really loved about it, especially when reading it with the understanding that this is supposed to be the actual sequel to the coldest winter ever and the story of Winter Santiago. So that's it for me, y'all. More book reviews to come. As always, I am MsMalcolmHughes, one who believes that books are sometimes better than people. And until next time, stay safe and be kind to each other. Odabo. Also, for those of you inquiring, I do still have buttons, my Ms. Malcolm Hughes pins, and the details on how to get those are below.